Yeah, but that's, and again, that gives you, it gives you a horrible path to go down, you know, because it's always, everybody always talks about overstepping. So a perfect example, you know, like you said, what does the First Amendment entail? You know, freedom of speech, freedom of press. Well, what does that First Amendment allow you for your expression, right to assembly? All obviously, you can come up with some form of original intent, but you can't tell me that Hamilton, who's one of my personal heroes, ever thought that we were going to have an internet. You know, I mean, it's just, you know, and by the way, Hamilton was the first sex scandal in America. That's besides the point. You know? The play, if you saw the play got a little bit wrong because it said he would never be president. He could never be president because he was born in the Caribbean, so that was never going to be a possibility for Hamilton.
Oh, I didn't know that.
But no, he was never allowed. He could never run for president because he was actually born in the Caribbean. He was born in St. Croix. But yeah, but he also was literally the first major sex scandal in American politics was Alexander Hamilton. So, you know, you could go to the Second Amendment and say, you know, a well-established militia being necessary, people shall have the right to bear arms. Okay, so you now shall have the right to bear arms only if you're in the militia, because that's basically what it says. But it's been extrapolated outward, and no one wants to have the argument of how do you narrow this down because you've opened the door. And it's just that's always been, and it's one of the problems with conservative courts is a conservative court won't go this way. A conservative court will just stop. So you're rarely going to see a conservative court overturn a precedent that's established, like Roe versus Wade, which I think was horribly decided upon. But it's not a true conservative court is never going to overturn it. It's just not going to let it grow. It's just going to keep it here. You know, an activist court will just keep shouting it through the roof, but a true conservative court will keep it here. They'll limit it, but it's never going to disappear. Same thing with this. It's like, you know, yes, pornography is a form of expression. The problem being is that even, what is it, Judge Blackmun said, you know, I can't define it, but I'll know it when I see it. That's a freaking horrible legal definition. I'll know it when I see it.
I agree,
you know? Yeah, and again, you know, now you come into, like, I mean, there is nobody on the face of the planet that's going to defend child porn because that's a crime. I mean, that's literally a crime. But you know, consenting adults doing crazy shit, I mean, just don't watch it. You know, do me a favor. Instead of spending all of your time talking to your own people and rallying everybody about a whole bunch of studies that are honestly bullshit, why don't you try and educate people and explain to them why they shouldn't watch this? Not from a religious perspective, not with bullshit studies, but why you think it actually hurts a family. And most of these guys will go down the path of, oh, you know, they're marrying later. Millennials are marrying later because the baby boomer generation got divorced 4, 5, and 6 times, and they realized maybe I don't want to do that. It had nothing to do with porn. It's got to do with a shitload, 6 out of 10 marriages collapsing over the last 40 years. You know?
Yeah.
One other point. That's the problem with some of these individualized arguments. Porn is bad. You know, it's just one little. You can't do that. Not in modern politics. There's a bunch of shit that comes in around it. You can't turn around and say porn's degrading the family, but access to guns are okay. And again, a million times I'll say this. I am pro Second Amendment. I absolutely believe that law-abiding citizens should have the right to bear arms, and I don't think that should be impeded. But you cannot tell me that there isn't a bigger health problem with bullets than there is with porn. It's just, you know, I show the death statistics. It's pretty easy. You can't separate and just microcosm this out and go, this section of porn that we choose to pick on is now considered bad, because somebody else is going to come and go, well, yeah, I know you didn't like that section of porn, but now we're going to include this, and we're going to include this, and we're going to include this. And by the time it's all over and done with, most Hollywood movies are going to be considered porn. It's like,
no, that's why I've always said it's really hard, you know, in a sense. It was Justice Potter Stewart was his name, who said that if I know pornography, I don't know, but I know it if I saw it or whatever. There's an intuitive sense in which I think that is true. I think it's on its surface false, because again, we need a clarified conceptual definition of what pornography is. And I've said, as a challenge to some people, I even wrote it in the Brand Love piece, where I was like, think about a one-sentence definition of pornography. It's probably either going to be really vague, or it's not going to take into account all of the different forms of porn that exist. I'm curious if you would at least nonetheless agree that there's like a hierarchy within pornography in terms of obscenity. So of course, maybe on the higher end, there's like child pornography,
Right.
animal rape and stuff like that. Clearly those are not okay.
Yeah, but those aren't. I mean, I wouldn't even label them porn. They're crimes. You know,
Okay.
bestiality is a
Right.
crime. Having sex with children is a crime. You know, filming it is an even bigger crime. You know, you know what I mean? It's like it's like trying to define murder and going to war and having to kill the enemy soldiers and going, well, it's all murder. No, it's not. It's two completely different sentences. Yeah. So yeah,
Right,
obviously take bestiality. I think, yeah, I mean, you know, there are different versions of porn. There's porn that is heavy duty BDSM. There's a lot of, you know, stuff there. But the problem is how do you codify which one's which?
right.
It's just two people on screen having regular sex, for lack of a better term, because I'm not even sure what the hell regular sex is anymore. But you know, if that's you say, okay, that's okay. All right, that's okay. But what if, you know, she wants to be handcuffed? Well, maybe that's not okay. Okay, that's not okay. Well, what happens if they want to add in another person? Oh, that's definitely, you know, it's like, where does it, that's why it's like the sad part about it is in a free society, you do have to accept some things that allow you to have the same kind of freedoms that you're giving your opponent. That's why we live, again, that's why we do not live in a democracy, and we live in a constitutional republic that offers minority rights. That is the concept. It's like, I am religious. I want to be able to go to church. You are not religious. You have a right to not be religious. I have decided that I do not like porn. You have decided you do not like guns. Doesn't matter. You're allowed to have porn and you're allowed to have guns. And, you know, until you convince the public at large to not do it by education, that's one thing. But if you're trying to mandate it, you're just going to drive them. I mean, you're just going to drive them to the doorstep. You know, there's been prostitution for millennia.
Yeah.
You know, sex work is like, sex work is the oldest profession in the book, supposedly.
Yeah. Tell me about this kind of brand of conservatism. So like you and Brandy, what is the historical narrative?
I guess we kind of fall into the libertarian category.
That's what I was gonna, yeah.
But not really, though, because libertarians are not pro-choice.
Right.
And libertarians are not anti-drug, and I believe both of us are. So, yeah, I don't know where the hell we fall. We probably fall into the individual freedom category of it. It's pragmatic conservatives. I'm not even sure where the hell we are at this point, but
I got you.
There's some point where you sit back and you just kind of like develop a personal philosophy. And
right.
I mean, listen, I still got my Ronald Reagan shirt on, but and by far was my political hero, you know, him and Hamilton and many others. But at some point you deviate, you start realizing what you see and what you don't see. And I worked in politics a very long time. I know what government can do. And I have seen way more harm than good. And I know that sounds overly Republican and overly conservative, but I was there. I have seen way more harm than good. I have seen way more. I have seen unbelievably good intentioned ideas just get destroyed because of the necessity to add on to them. To take the simple, you know, what was it, Dr. Occam's razor, to say, you know, the easiest solution is always the best. They find you know, like you want to just swing into a creek, and the next thing you know, they're building you an aircraft carrier. It's like, it is beyond the ability to grasp just what happens when professional politicians get their hands into something that they've never had before. I am utterly terrified as to what's going to happen after this situation has occurred right now, because we have given government powers that they don't have. The governor of states do not have the powers to randomly shut down businesses and choose what's essential. They just don't. To tell people that they have to wear masks, they do not have these powers. And to just claim you have them and have everybody like lemmings fall into line with it is scary as all hell. I don't care if it's good or it's bad. It's scary. Because at some point, somebody's going to take that good intention problem and then turn around and go, you know what? I'm the governor of New York, and I've decided that beef is an emergency. And people taking that emergency, they're going to die of heart. And I don't want my hospitals crowded with a whole bunch of people with heart attacks. So every steakhouse in New York State's getting shut down. And, you know, and people are going to think, oh, my God, that's ridiculous, Vic. Yeah, I refer you back to the large soda law, because that's a law.
Yeah.
You know, and now you have given these guys the ability to understand that at a whim, they can shut down sporting events. They shut down everything. They literally can shut down everything because they claim an emergency, whether it be one or not.
Have you guys opened up at all in any kind of way?
No, everybody's on the street with masks, which is the biggest joke on the face of the planet. Look, this is dangerous. I don't want to downplay. I'm not a conspiracy theorist that think that
you
there's
said
no
with
problems.
Masks.
I thought everybody's got a mask. Yeah, everybody's. I wish they did. That would make life a lot better. You know, this is no joke, but I also believe that there's a lot of problems. There are going to be a lot of problems that are going to come out in the future with how this was handled, whether this was a true pandemic, whether the people who were dying off were all coronavirus patients or some of them, because all of a sudden flu deaths dropped to like non-existent, even though we were in the middle of what everybody said was a strong flu season, a very dangerous flu season. All of a sudden, nobody has the flu anymore. They all have coronavirus, which I guarantee you is bullshit. But the hospital, again, and this is why I think it's like a pragmatic side of it. Sounds like a great idea. If you die of coronavirus, or if somebody has to use a ventilator, the government's going to write you a check, because we know hospitals are struggling right now since the governors decided you cannot have elective surgery. An amazing fucking power that you've just given the governor of New York. It's amazing. Right. Can't have elective surgery. What's elective? Whatever we tell you is elective. You know, whether it's actually elective or not, whatever we tell you is elective, it's elective. So now we're going to give you money if you have coronavirus. Well, a person comes in, they have respiratory failure, they have pneumonia, they have the flu. I'm not going to get money. Oh, everybody's got coronavirus now.
Do you think that, I mean,
that's absolutely what's happening. It's a byproduct of government. You also have a situation now where everybody is so fucking terrified of going to hospitals because of what they see in the media, that we're actually only 3 hospitals in New York of the, I can't even tell you how many we have, that people are dying in their homes because they don't want to go to the hospital with chest pains and are dying of heart attacks because they're afraid they're going to get coronavirus.
Oh, man, you opened the Pandora's box. Tell me more.
Yeah, I mean that's the silent total. And like I said, I'm not one of the conspiracy people. I do believe that this is dangerous. I do believe that I think they way overreacted. I think there were a lot of different things that could have been done. I think that the constant fights, that we don't have the ability to come together in time of need like we used to. You know, we don't have the ability to work together as a team. You have Congress already starting coronavirus hearings. We haven't even gotten through it yet. What the fuck are you having a hearing on? We haven't even finished the process. You know, you're going to have a hearing on what might happen in the future, and we'll find out later on that, oh my God, you know, this happened better than we thought. Or, yeah, and that's just it. You got a group of people who are hearing happy, having hearings. You got a president who, sometimes I just want to smack in the head because he doesn't know when to shut the fuck up. And nobody knows how to like literally sit down and go, you know what, for the next 2 months, let's not beat the shit out of each other. Figure out how to beat this so that the American public, the rest of us, can actually get on with our lives. And now you're going to have, you know, they're talking about mass global starvation in Africa because of food problems and shortages. You're talking about, I mean, you know, there's all kinds of repercussions that come out of the back end of this. And that's, you know, take it back down. That's always been my problem. When you start doing these, oh, this sounds like a really good idea. We're going to get rid of this one little thing, or we're only going to give them this one little power. Well, when you give them this one little thing, everything that could possibly be touched by that will be at some point. I don't know what's going to happen. I will not make a prediction on this, but you have all of a sudden Republican states are opening up, right? If Democrat states are not opening up. If the Republican states open up and it works, the Democrat states are in a shitload of trouble. If they open up and there's just a mass flood of people dropping dead, the Republican states are going to have a shitload of problems. But one of the two of these groups are going to win this battle, and unfortunately, it's going to be on the lives of Americans.
Yeah, interesting. So there's only 4 states right now that are opening. I think mine's one of them.
Florida, Georgia, Texas.
Yeah, red states.
yeah, all red states. Yeah.
Did you vote? I was going to say, did you vote for Trump?
Yeah, I did. Well, no, actually, I wrote in Ronald Reagan, to be honest.
You waited in line and everything, or did you mail it?
I waited. Well, yeah, I don't have to wait in a very, very long line in New York when you're a Republican. It's like just, there's a lot of people online with the Democrat book signing in. There's very few on the Republican book. But yeah, no, I walked in the voting booth and not being able to choose between the lesser of two evils, I slid the handle back and figured that Ronald Reagan dead would do a better job than either one of these two alive. And I still believe that, I honestly believe our city is desperately missing Giuliani, whether you think he was a Nazi or not. Right about now, we could use somebody who's got balls. This is going to require actual leadership, not what's today's polling numbers say.
Do you have any? I'm curious what you think about the numbers going around right now, because I don't. It's today. It's this. Tomorrow it's that. Yeah.
Yeah.
You think it's higher than?
Yeah. You see all of these crazy. I mean, it's like I saw a number, and I hope I got it wrong. I really need to go back and take a look. But Cuomo did an antibody test, segmented antibody test in New York City, and by extrapolating it out like you would do a poll, he came to the conclusion. I believe the number was 2.5 million people in the city of New York got coronavirus.
Whoa,
2.5 million. Yeah,
that's a new number.
Most are asymptomatic. They have the antibody in their system. Now, whether it's from a prior coronavirus, this coronavirus, no one, but they have. So 2.5 million people potentially had coronavirus. That's a third of our population, 33%. What the fuck were we staying indoors for? We all got it anyway. You destroyed businesses, closed down people, wrecked everybody's life, scared the shit out of an entire community, and 33% of us got the fucking disease anyway, and not that many went to the hospital. It's like
that's insane.
I truly hope that number is wrong. I truly, because if it's right, that's a huge problem. Yeah, and then again, this is I'll harken back to porn, but in any argument. I love these studies and stats, and you read my book. I bitch about stats all the time. I love it.
Yeah.
Oh my God, 1,000 people today were identified, 1,000 new people in an hour were identified today of having the coronavirus. Well, first of all, Georgia didn't open until yesterday. Second of all, it takes 2 days to do the test. And third of all, no one has said whether or not that those people wound up in the hospital or were symptomatic. 1,000 people could have had it. They could have had it for 2 fucking weeks for all we know. It's like you literally you're literally taking out the most important aspect of what that 1,000 number means. Did 1,000 people get hospitalized with ventilators? Because that's huge. Did 1,000 people just have it and are walking around the streets without a problem? Because that's also huge. There's percent. How many people have it versus how many people are in the hospital versus how many people are critical are way more important. And, my hero in one of his books said that when he used to do speeches for GE, he would go around and do the GE speeches. He would talk about billions of dollars in deficits and hundreds of millions of dollars, and people's eyes would glass over. They just didn't grasp it. But when he talked about the Pentagon spending $250 for a hammer, everybody perked up. Everybody started listening. Oh my God. Smaller numbers have a greater effect. So when people are out there now talking about 60,000 people died, you're going to start hearing noise because it's 7 o'clock in New York. And they cheer.
Yeah.
But when they start talking about these numbers, these crazy numbers, 60,000 people died of the coronavirus so far. 60,000 people also died of the flu. More people died of cancer. More people died of heart disease. More people died of drug overdoses. More people died of AIDS in New York in 1 year than that number. That's AIDS, which is not an overwhelming, all-encompassing disease that actually affected a very small segment of the population. But yeah, you see.
I'm sorry. Does he have something on his back or?
Oh yeah, he's handicapped. His back legs actually don't work. Yeah, his back legs don't work. He bad breathing. His spine was like a zipper. And when he got older, it literally disconnected. So he does not,
does not
have the use of his back leg. But he's awesome. He's the happiest dog on the planet. And that's a New York Yankees little sack. Believe it or not, my wife invented that because he had he would drag himself around and he sometimes would lose his faculties, or he was starting to get sores on his legs. So this wound up being the way for him to move around and do well.
Oh, so that's Darwin, right?
That's Darwin, yeah. Darwin had a genetic defect. Go figure.
I've never seen that on him before.
Yeah,
Is that
you gotta pay attention. Usually you see his face with the tilted head, but yeah,
oh, okay.
he's the best dog ever.
I'm sorry to interrupt. It was just he was walking away and it looked like he had like a
Yeah,
sock on his tail or something. I was like,
yeah,
is he
yeah.
good?
He's Kira's outside on the porch blowing off her air horn to cheer for all of the medical personnel in New York.
But what do you take away from Reagan? What like was you the big? Why is Reagan big for you?
More than anything was he truly was the great communicator. You know, he had this ability to take a first. You got to remember too, and I was alive in there. In 1980, we were coming off the back end of a bad Carter presidency, but you also weren't too far removed from Watergate. The country had I think it was 51 or 52% of the country identified itself as Democrats, and there were another 20% as independents. There's like only 30% of the country, called themselves Republican. Definitely not conservative Republicans. That's when you had the Rockefeller Republicans and those kind of. And he, in a very short amount of time, flipped the country and got people to understand. My biggest, maybe that's what I am. I'm a responsibility conservative. Take freaking responsibility for your actions. Don't worry about mine. Take responsibility for your own actions. And I think he was the guy that came out there and basically told everybody, you can't blame or lean on the government or expect the government to take care of all your problems. You need to take care of your own problems. People need to do that. And that's where I think, I honestly, I remember my mom worked for a Democrat congressman, and my parents were Democrats. And it was the 80 Reagan-Carter debate. My mom had actually been in the White House in its picture in the Oval Office with Carter, and they were Carter supporters. And I'm watching the debate, and I remember looking at my mom going, but I like what the other guy's saying more. And that was the end of it. From that moment forward, Republican.
What did
I was 14 at the time.
What did your parents do?
My dad was a history teacher, retired now. And my mom worked for a congressman for years and then ran a marble and tile importing company.
Okay, so that's where your political background kind of came from?
Yeah, I grew up in politics. I grew up surrounded by it.
I got you. Dope. I remember reading about the O.J. Simpson case. I think that case went down like the year I was born in '94 or something like that. Good year.
Yeah, that's about right. Yeah.
But it was very critical of like Reagan's, because apparently a lot of the tense attitudes towards like race at the time was because of laws that Reagan was enacting against black minority communities and stuff like that. I'm curious what you think about.
I think it's about a bunch of bullshit.
Yes.
It's funny. There was a lot. They talk about a lot of tensions and a lot of stuff like that. O.J. Simpson isn't the downtrodden inner city youth who grew up poor. The man was one of the greatest running backs in NFL history and had plenty of money. So much so that he got away with murder. Let's be honest, okay?
Do you think OJ did it?
Absolutely. Absolutely, OJ did it. There was a rumor going around for years that OJ's son actually did it and he covered for him. Take whichever one you want.
How old was his son?
His son was in his 20s at the time.
Oh, okay. I didn't know that.
Or not your late teens, early 20s. But OJ is OJ. More so, I think a lot of the conversation had come out of the Rodney King situation.
Oh yeah.
And I think that's where a lot of people were talking about race and race baiting and race riots and whatnot. But that's another side of this that I've always had a problem with. Same thing with people who bring up race baiting, bring up terrorism, bring up stuff like that. I remember fire hoses in the South keeping black people away from being able to vote. One of the most disgusting things I've ever seen in my entire life. And in my lifetime, I watched a black person become president of the United States. An amazing accomplishment for America. Is racism gone? Absolutely not. But that's a huge jump in my short span of life. Jump in my short span of life. And there's nobody that can deny that. Nobody that can deny that. Do we have ways to go? Yes. Are you going to basically be able to beat racism out of everybody? Nope. There is going to be a racist son of a bitch out there no matter what you do. There is nothing that you're going to do that stops it. What you try to do is educate, as a parent for the millionth time, your children that you need to take the Martin Luther King approach and judge a person by the content of their character, not the color of their skin. And that's my intent. That I grew up with that, and I believe in that in my entire life. I don't care what color you are. I don't care what your sexual orientation is. I don't care what your philosophy is. I care whether you're a decent human being, whether you are not a piece of garbage, whether you take care of your family, whether you're good to your friends and your kids, whether you have a thoughtful mind and you're willing to expand your mind and have ideas and have thoughtful, like you and I, we disagree on some things, thoughtful arguments without calling the other person names.
Yeah.
Those are the keys to a lot of, and those are the keys to ending, for the most part, these things, but you're never ending them completely. It's not going to happen. It's, you know, and it's a fool's game and Pollyannish glasses to think that at some point in time, everybody's just going to accept everybody. Yeah. You know, I got Italian relatives that don't like Irish.
Is your daughter Danny a Republican or conservative or?
Oh same? Yeah, both my kids are. My son and my daughter.
Very cool. Your son, is he in New York too?
Yeah, he's in New York too.
How old is he?
He will be 30 in about 25 days.
Nice. And how old is okay, that sounds like me and my brother. How old is Danny?
Danny just turned 26 in December.
Okay. Oh, what day, if you don't mind asking?
The 18th.
17th. What?
Oh, you're the 17th, yeah.
Yeah, that's cool.
I'm trying to think. No, Beethoven's birthday is the 16th.
Oh, I didn't. Cool. Then that's good news for both of us, I guess.
Yeah. I think, but, I want to say, is this the 250th birthday? I think this might be his 250th birthday this year.
I remember. No, that's when he died. Because I remember he was a really big fan of Napoleon, and then Napoleon became emperor in 1811, and that's when Beethoven was like, "Dude, you suck."
And then Beethoven was, "Dude, you suck," because Napoleon bombed Austria while he was living there. So
that might have something to do with it.
Yeah, that had a lot to do with it. But Napoleon came in and then went out, and he died when Metternich. I think Metternich was the whatever Lord High Executioner, whatever the hell his title was at the time. But yeah, I believe this is a big number. It's either 225 or 250. This is like they were doing a bunch of celebrations, which I would have loved to have gone to, but who the hell knows what's going to happen with that this year now? You know.
Yeah,
I always wanted to see Beethoven's Ninth in the Austrian Opera House where it was first performed. But
oh my God, yes.
I'd be just like
Symphony Number 7 in A major.
Great. Yeah, the Pastoral. Yeah, the Pastoral's awesome. All of his, I mean, he only wrote 9 symphonies. Supposedly there was a 10th he was writing, but he only wrote 9 symphonies, and there isn't a bad one. But I always laugh. It's always the odd ones that everybody knows. 1, 3, 5, 7, 9. Those are the biggies. Except Fantasia, the Disney movie, used 6.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Yeah, actually, I'm sorry. 6 is the Pastoral. They used 6. That was the one with the unicorns flying and stuff. That's the Beethoven, the original Fantasia. Yeah.
Did you like Fantasia?
The original is one of my favorite movies. Yeah.
Really? I saw it once when I was really young, and probably like everyone else, just hated it because I didn't know what to think about it. But I saw it much older, and I thought it was brilliant.
Yeah, it is brilliant. And the monster from Night on Bald Mountain was probably my favorite Disney villain of all time. It's up there at least.
Is that? I don't even remember that. That's Fantasia again.
Yeah, the end of Fantasia goes from the Night on Bald Mountain to Ave Maria, to Schubert's Ave Maria. And it's the big monster with the wings, the demon-looking monster. And I remember as a kid being just terrified of that thing.
I'm going to watch that once we're finished here because I kind of miss that movie now.